Baldur's Gate, BG2. Do Druids break the game? Now, I say BG2 because this is where all of the character classes really start to come into their own. You start getting some of the mid to higher level spells. You've got a nice hit point pool. You've got different NPCs, multi-class, dual class. You're also fighting, not that there aren't some challenging encounters in BG1, but now in BG2, you're starting to really fight not only more powerful parties, but adventuring parties opposing you and named NPCs, of course. But you're starting to really go down that list. And I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you really start going down that list of classic Dungeons and Dragons monsters. And for me, that's a lot of fun to play against, to kind of fight and try out the different tactics of these monsters and really see it from an advanced Dungeons and Dragons standpoint, rightfully so. Some of these monsters are extremely powerful, even for a jacked up, geared up, ready to go party. So within that framework, of course, also spells now start to come into power. Mages become more powerful, a lot of different spells being cast other than just spamming Magic Missile, although spamming Magic Missile works very, very effectively because it's guaranteed damage. Magic resistance might eat it up, but it's consistent, constant damage, especially at the higher levels. If you can pelt out Magic Missile and increase your casting time by haste or other things, it's an effective spell. And at first level, you've got a lot. But we're jumping into Magic Missile here, and this is the question: are Druids broken? So shape-shifting ability, yeah, it's fun. Right now, I'm doing a BG2 run with a shapeshifter, doing kind of the werewolf thing. Yes, it's underpowered. Yes, it needs some buffs. Yes, at the higher levels, it doesn't have that +3, and there's a few monsters I can't beat, although there's ways around that. But it's kind of fun from that perspective. It's kind of interesting. It's got some flavor. The fact that I can't wear armor for the shapeshifter, okay, that's a little bit. Character looks kind of bland, but there's a few things that I can wear. But the spells are Druid spells. And I notice this every time I play a Druid. I don't often play a Druid in AD&D or in Baldur's Gate, but the reason why I say it's broken, spamming the various insect swarms, and they stack, right? You've got the single insect swarm that you can send at somebody. They've got the burst one at the next spell level up where it hits a point and radiates out, and then you've got just the tidal wave one. And this spell alone, casting time is a little bit quicker, but you can haste and there's ways around that. But I say it's broken because it hits the area. They have to make saves, but it interrupts spells, and that gets better and better. So it's a way to quickly take out spellcasters. It deals a little bit of damage every turn. So you're stacking that. Not a lot, but it's consistent damage, so it's going to be casting interrupts. And it's from the perspective of the Druid, it sometimes causes panic and causes things to run. So it's kind of like a fusion of breach or other spells that prevent mages from casting, poison damage, because it's not poison, but poison damage is in it's consistently damaging you every single turn. And then on top of that, affecting an area as it goes up, and kind of like mini horror or mini confusion in that it causes some of the enemies to run. So from that Druid perspective, sitting back and chain casting and chain spamming those out, that is extremely powerful, especially the burst ones. Now, while that's going on, or I should say before that happens, ideally before that happens, although sometimes you walk into an encounter and it just drops on you, but the ability as the Druid levels up to summon elementals and summon woodland creatures, although I like the battle bears for the narrative, I like summoning those, but to be able to summon a nymph and an elemental and have those charming, attacking, and just raw hit fighting, that's massive. Putting those two out and just insect bursts, it makes so many encounters in BG2 really, really easy, where you're like, hey, this is kind of cool. I mean, they're still challenging, but it's just not kind of the AD&D usual wipe the floor with you and just blast you with tons of spells. What's interesting in doing that, if you're playing a game with a party, going back to the magic missile thing, well, if I can interrupt, for the most part, spellcasters and just throw that out of whack, then I don't need to be focusing on full dispels or full counters for the mages, which means the mage or the mages in my party can now focus on damage dealing spells and spamming out hold spells, spamming out, hold, and then the clerics hold spells and just dropping those on most encounters. So it's interesting. It's interesting playing a druid. Is that combination of send out the bugs and dropping elementals and woodland creatures, does that break the game in BG2?